That's right. He says, that's good business, Eddie. And it's essentially what we do. That's why equity capital is so important. They want their money back. That's why the stock exchange exists. But I think what I learned from my father, the biggest lesson, Freddie, was just hard work. You know, he came as an immigrant, didn't speak English, didn't really have any skills. You know, showed up at a construction site one day. As you know, I mean, it's not a unique story. A lot of people started that way. Showed up at a construction site, and he said, "What do you need?" They said, "Well, we need a painter." I'm a painter. He was a painter, like I'm, you know, a hairstylist. But he learned. You know, he got one of the other painters to show him, and he worked hard, and he learned and made himself an invaluable employee. And within 2 years, the entrepreneurial spirit was there, and he bought 2 lots, started building houses. In those days on spec, you dug a hole, but it was the early 50s, and you know what? A lot of people buying houses. And it was just the value of hard work. He, particularly in the building season, or building season, as my dad would call it, you know, from sort of end of April through till October, he'd leave before I ever woke up, and he'd come back 9, 10 o'clock at night when it got dark. And, you know, you learn a lot from that.
For sure. A lot of skepticism and cynicism about RioCan doing business in the United States. A lot of Canadian companies, especially retailers, never succeeded there. It's been a couple of years since RioCan has now put more than its toe in, probably put up to its ankle.
Yeah.
Good
analogy.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
What's different about RioCan going to the States that others have failed at? What's the secret?
I think the secret, if there is one, was a couple of things. Well, three. It's always three when I give an answer. Number one was just timing. We have been really looking at making an entry into the United States. Some of you remember we made like a false start back in 2006. And we knew at the size that RioCan was, there just wasn't really enough to buy in Canada. And, you know, development takes a long time. It was just tough to keep the kind of growth that we wanted in this country. So we knew from about '06 that we had to look at the United States. But we put it off until the middle of '09, almost, I guess, 2 years ago. Because the question we kept asking ourselves was, what are we bringing to the United States that gives us a competitive advantage? I think if more of the retailers and more of the developers that went in the past and failed had asked themselves that question, they would have done better. And in '06 and '07 and '08, we kept asking ourselves that question, and we said, nothing. They all got money. They all know the market better than we do. They all have just as good, if not better, relationships with the tenants than we do. What the hell do we bring to the table? Dumb money? Well, you know, that's not a great spot to be in. Certainly not a spot RioCan ever wants to be in. In '09, the world had changed. There was no money in the United States. All the REITs in the United States, big guys, had cut their distributions or were paying even Simon Property Group, the largest REIT in the United States, was paying their distributions in shares. It stopped giving cash back to their shareholders. Our good friends at Kimco, whose stock had been at $50, $60 in 2006 and 7, had to issue 100 million shares at $7.70 to stay afloat. And their stock is, I don't know, 18 or 19 bucks today. I mean, the recovery is not complete down there. So number one, we had capital. Our capital markets were in much better position. Our stocks had recovered way better than theirs had. RioCan, for one, had not cut its distribution, so I think that provided support. And our banks were in great shape and were okay to lend. So the timing, I think, was secret number one. Number two was that we really did, you know, we almost went back to RioCan's roots. And we said, what is the most risk-averse stuff, call shopping center stuff, stuff to buy in the United States. And, the answer wasn't hard to come by because it took us back to RioCan's roots back in 94, 95 before we got into power centers, which was supermarket anchored, convenience slash neighborhood slash community shopping centers, 100,000 footers. The difference was, in Canada, supermarket's a supermarket. Supermarket, they're all okay. They all will pay their rent. They all make a good living. United States, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, we did a lot of study. For example, a fact you don't need to know, but it's interesting. 80% of all food sold in Canada is sold in food supermarkets. In the United States, a similar number is approaching 60%. And where are they buying food? Costco, super Walmarts, super Targets, dollar stores.
Well, Walmart is the largest purveyor of food in the United States.
Walmart is the largest grocer in the United States. Exactly. So you had to be careful who your food supermarkets were, and we made the decision you had to pick the number one or number two supermarket in the given market. Third, and we did a lot of work to understand who that was in our first chosen market, because the third thing we did is say, look, the United States is a big place. I mean, Texas, which we're sort of in having a rapture with right now. It has 26 million people. It's 80% of Canada, and that's just Texas. So it's a huge place. The Northeast, which was the first area we focused on, has, in the 7 states we're focused on, has almost double, about 60 million people, almost double Canada's population. And it's more urban, it's more dense, the people have more disposable income in most cases. So, you had to focus on an area. You can't just say, give me the United States. And you put together risk aversion, focus. We weren't there to steal properties. We weren't there to, take advantage of an opportunity, buy a half-empty shopping center for pennies on the pound, because we knew we didn't have the talent or have the competitive advantage to fix it. If the local guy living in Phoenix couldn't fix it, who the heck did we think we would be, that we could fix it? We knew we couldn't. So we wanted to buy stable, great assets. And I guess the last thing we did, it's the fourth reason, sorry, was try to pick a partner. Again, we didn't have the local relationships. We didn't have the local knowledge. And real estate's a very local business. So rather than just blundering in ourselves and putting out offers, the first thing we did was pick a partner. Luckily, because of the financial times, we had lots of people asking us to dance. And we were able to actually pick. And, we picked a partner that we thought would do the job for us, which, they have. In the space of 18 months in the Northeast, we have 24 shopping centers, I think, close to 4 million square feet. Our balance sheet, average cap rate, probably 7.5, because we started buying at 8.5. Market today on our assets probably sub 7.
And not the plug, but the occupancy?
Thank you. Average occupancy rate, because these were quality assets, was 95%. To show you that we picked the right partner in the right locations, occupancy rate at March 31st on those assets is 98%.
Which is better than Canada.
It's actually higher than our occupancy rate in Canada. And how many portfolios in the United States can you do that? And then we went and did the same thing in Texas. Picked a partner there, bought a bunch of assets. You got to appreciate it. We started out by buying a bunch of assets from our partners because they both needed money. So we were able, Fred and Jeff would sit down with their portfolio, and Jonathan Gitlin, and literally cherry pick and say, okay, here's the top 20. I think you used to rank them A, B, C. So we say, well, put the BCs over there, and let's see what we can buy the A's for. And it didn't always work out that great for our partner, because eventually some analysts said, holy shit, they sold all their best properties to RioCan, or at least 80% of them. And, that's what we were able to do because of the timing, because, people down there just couldn't get money. So it all worked out together, and I think that's the secret. And I think we just have to keep our discipline as we become a very popular buyer down there. And we are popular these days.
So let's get out of the RioCan milieu for a second and talk about Ed Sonshine and For those who don't know, Ed is an avid reader and a lover of history and fiction and big moviegoer. Cineplex is very lucky to have him.
That's why we're Cineplex's largest landlord, so I can get a pass.
So let's for curiosity, a fictional character that you admire and what do you admire about him or her or it?
Now that's a leading question to which Fred knows the answer before he asks it, because we have spent many parts of our Tuesday morning meetings spouting and quoting the wisdom of the Godfather. And I think actually somebody gave me a great present once. I think it was perhaps you, Jordy. And I think that was called that, the wisdom of Godfather. Godfather to me, Godfather 1 in particular, some people think Godfather 2 was better.
Nobody thinks Godfather 3 is better.
No. There is a toss-up between 1 and 2. But Godfather 1 had Marlon Brando. And I thought that made a difference. And that's probably my favorite movie of all time. I've only seen it, I don't know, 50 times. And, I sometimes say to the guys, I say, all the wisdom you really need in business, it's in that movie. You don't have to go to business school. Just watch that movie a lot, but pay attention. And there's so many lessons to take. And
give us one.
Only one? Okay.
Well, we can give it. We can go on till 9 o'clock.
I'll go with one. And you had to really pay attention. And has anybody seen the movie?
Let's see how many males. Put up your hand if you've seen the movie. Thank God.
You two haven't. It's really not just a guy's movie. It's a great movie. Okay, there's a lot of shooting and killing, but it's a good movie. Anyway, in the movie, those of you who've seen it will recall, and it was fairly near the beginning, there was a meeting of Marlon Brando, the Godfather, with his sons and some of his associates, and this guy who'd come to ask favors called the Turk, Scalazzo. And he was asking Marlon Brando to invest money in his new scheme and provide protection with the police and with the judges, and he would do everything else, the Turk. And this new scheme, by the way, was smuggling heroin and distributing heroin in the United States, which the Godfather's family was not involved in. In fact, it was a fairly new business at this time. I guess it was 1946, 1947. Just after World War II, and it wasn't, didn't exist as a business, and the Turk wanted to start this business, and Marlon Brando didn't want to do it. He made the comment. He says, my judges, my police, he says, they won't be there for this. This is a dirty business. We don't have to do that kind of business, and you want me what you call small change, $1 million. You want me to just give it to you? And he says, the Tattaglia family, if I remember, the Tattaglia family will guarantee the money. And Sonny, Santino, his older son, said to him, you telling me? He starts yelling at the Turk and trying to get more things. And at the end of the meeting, Godfather said to the Turk, he says, as you can see, he says, I indulge my children. And he ended the meeting, and he wished him well in his new venture, because it doesn't compete with anything he does. And he showed him out the door, and then he turned around and he stuck his finger in his son, James Caan played the character, Sonny's face. He says, never let anyone outside the family know what you're thinking. And of course, that one statement by Sonny caused the rest of the movie, because the Turk figured if he could kill the father, he could make a deal with Sonny, because Sonny wanted to do this deal. And he thought being in drug business maybe was a good business. And then they tried to assassinate the father, and everything really flowed out of that one little scene. So you got to be careful what you say and who you say it to. And it's a great lesson. You got